Good, I'm just going to ask our speakers to join me on the grey chairs.
I feel like I got very serious right there. So
That's all good.
Aye, it is.
Okay. So, we've got one, two, three, yeah. Okay, so Wiki has got her job back again, so we're really happy to take questions or comments or queries from the audience. We had a really diverse kōrero here that went kind of deep inside and on the angle in relation to Te Tiriti. And I think as health researchers in the past, we've felt quite confident about where Te Tiriti sits with our service delivery, with our research kaupapa, and that's all kind of a little bit in disarray at the moment in terms of the current political environment and the policies that are being fast-tracked. And so I think each of our speakers talked about it in quite a different aspect, but in a way that kind of has direct impacts on hauora. So he pātai, he kōrero. Is it you, Hector? Yeah. See your eyebrows.
O tēnā rau koutou e ngā tuene, ka mau te wehi. Yeah, ka mau te wehi. Probably at all three of you, just wanting to think, it connects really, Sasha, to what you were saying about what can make a difference, you know, moving forward, but also touches on, Christine, I've known you all these years and didn't know you had any relationship to Aui Riddell and whānau, because he was one of those nurturing figures back in the 90s when, you know, we were fighting for our kura. Anyway, having said that, we've now crossed this threshold now, whānau, where my mokopuna are speaking Māori through the efforts of all those people that you mentioned. But I've experienced those sine curves of governments coming and going. You know, I was a teenager when Maturata left the Labour Party, formed Mana Motuhake. My grandfather was the founding secretary, didn't know what the hell ratification of the treaty meant, but, you know, grew up and listening to all of that. Anyway, fast forward now, my mokopuna haven't experienced any of that. They don't know, they haven't seen the battle lines fight that, you know, Moana and Nader and those people had done. And we don't want to create that negativity for them because, as you said, Christina, that, you know, when you see those people, you're just blown away by how much we've transformed in the last couple of generations. So how do we do that without creating bitter and twisted? Because us old grumpy fellas do get grumpy about that, but we sincerely want to make a difference. And I was really interested in what you were saying, Sasha, about the stuff that can make a difference and the stuff that can't. So yeah, comments on that, please. Kia ora. Hard question, I know, sorry.
Kia ora te toakana. The first thing that comes to mind is I remember being distraught as a 20-something-year-old, having just been before Tront, and Tront had been mean and grumpy, and going outside and one of the aunties saying, because she didn't pull her punches, oh dear, you just have to wait for a generation to die. And so she said it, but lots have thought it, right? And the most important thing is that the same thing doesn't get said about us, right? And at least what I see within our Ngāi Tahu generational dynamics is that I think those who have taken the punches have a spirit of meanness, which is very real. It led to very public things like coups against Tamak and the like. But the generations below have a greater confidence that enables a greater spirit of kindness. So I'm not actually worried about the ones coming through having their potential quashed, because I think every time we see our kura kids do what they do so beautifully, our hearts fill and our eyes leak. So I'm not scared that this generation will confine that potentiality. I think that, and what I really hope is we will go back to our old practices. When I was carrying bags for the iwi chairs, I would ask all of them, how did you end up being where you are? All of them got dumped in it, no idea what they were doing and just told they had to. And then I would ask, so who have you done that to? And they all said, oh no, we live in a different time now. We've got in different language, they would say, we've got to respect individual autonomy and privacy. So we wouldn't dare to do that to other people, apart from the mischief ones who had busloads of people they'd set up for things. And what I see happening for the generations that didn't take so many punches is that we're going back to that practice. And to me, that's our savior. And the more that we can do it amongst ourselves in this room, to volunteer people is to manaaki in a Māori way, I think. And we just need to claim it.
Kia ora. Thank you. There's a question that's come in online for you, Annabelle. Can you please briefly expand on the practice of whāngai being outlawed? And prior to the 1950 it's not 50 fact, it's 1955 Act, you mentioned, were Māori not able to adopt non-Māori? So there's actually two questions there.
Yeah, so I guess what we know is that, so whāngai is a practice that upheld a communal way of life, was one of those things that the government really wanted to control and dismantle because it's linked to succession to land. And also they're wanting to move us as a population to a European mode of living and being. And so whāngai, yeah, sort of along with, I guess, kind of next off the mark, you know, kind of dispossess Māori of land, then we look at sort of some of those social institutions and whāngai being one of those things. So, yes, and the next one, yeah. So yeah, there's this interesting use of or deployment of the notion of equality in different ways, but essentially to have the same effect. And so, yeah, Māori, I think this comes back to that real distaste for Māori ways of living, being and doing, is, you know, it was not seen at all in a positive way that Māori would adopt, that non-Māori children would grow up in that way. And so I think there are accounts of Māori being very willing to adopt non-Māori children where there was need. You know, there was that aroha, that desire to you know, give children what they needed, but essentially authorities saw that as something not to be promoted at all. And so there's lots of disparaging kōrero around, you know, yeah, I guess those judgments about poverty, about deprivation, whāngai also the practice of grandparents taking children, you know, in many instances where adoption ended up as the outcome, there were whānau that would take those tamariki. There were grandparents that were willing, but they were seen as too elderly or too poor. And so the better alternative is to put them with non-Māori.
Kia ora. Thank you. Questions from the audience? Oh, thought that was Theo. I got excited.
Kia ora, ngā mihi. Ngā mihi kia koutou mō te kōrero. Ngā mihi mahana mō te kaupapa o te rānei. My pātai is for all of you. Not as much so in terms of the kaupapa at hand of research, but more so as mana Māori, mana wahine in these spaces. What would you tell your younger self? What's one thing that you would tell your younger self coming into, coming into navigating these spaces? That's my pātai.
Well, ngā mihi, what would I tell my younger self is probably what I still need to tell my supposedly grown up self, about, so I think when you're part of an intergenerational journey, it can give you real commitment issues because you can see there's so many things that need to be done. And so I think there's lots of internal conflict about finding your lane. And I think that I got asked to do something that I ultimately said no to. And I think it was the most empowering thing because I could say that suits my skills, but it would destroy my soul. And I think being able to clarify between skill and soul and always follow your soul in a way that leverages your skills, because I think that you're most whole when you can weave every part of yourself, head, heart, and hand together into a kaupapa. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, absolutely tautoko that, Sasha. What advice would I give? Well, I don't think I'd do anything differently, to be honest. I guess I'm thinking of myself now as a late bloomer, really. I mean, but I've had lots of awesome guides and mentors along the way. But I guess, yeah, I feel like, particularly in research, where we end up, it's a culmination of so many kind of things we get involved. I think it's you've got to go with the opportunities that present themselves. I know. I'm happy that at this point in my life, middle age, with the wisdom that comes with that, that I'm able to speak to some of these issues now. My 20-year-old self, there's no way I could. So yeah, I just think trust in, and I have to take that wisdom from healers about, why do it puts you in places. So I think you find yourself in the right places. But yeah, some mates along the way is really helpful.
Yeah, kia ora. I'm struggling to remember, because I am comfortable where I'm at the moment, and the decisions I have made up till now have, like Annabelle. But I think when I was quite young, when I was around 18, 19, 20, I made a deliberate decision to focus on what brought me joy, and I think I was lucky with that. Like I did te reo Māori, not that you can tell, and also, yeah, I think it's what you say yes to and what you say no to, and being clear about that. Yeah, trying to, yeah. Oh, yeah, and I didn't go corporate and sell sunglasses at H&J Smith's in Invercargill.
Noted.
Just in case you're right. Okay. Christina, we've actually got a question for you from our online viewers. We're loving. For Christina, what is the future of our food system and incorporating food sovereignty alongside food security?
Actually, there is a report from the Public Health Advisory Committee, Ministry of Health, the food system. It's all rebalancing our food system. And in that report, they said, actually, maybe we shouldn't just think of kai as a commodity, because the government only think about kai as money, and that stuffs us completely up. So that report, I put a link to it on, and I wanted to talk about it, but it was such a cool report, really cool recommendations. One of the recommendations was actually to increase the ka ora ka ako program, which is why you haven't heard of the report, because it was actually released this year. So there's, yeah, and part of their report is also we need to privilege Māori thinking about kai and privilege kai sovereignty, and we need to privilege Māori working in this space, and yeah, there's heaps in that report.
For the person who asked that from their office or home, we'll put a link. Yeah, okay, just checking that administratively. Right, and now there's a question, the final question is for Sasha. Back to the existential assault. Can we as Māori use Te Tiriti to affect broader change, but using stealth and Aotearoa's approach to things such as neoliberalism? Those people at home think hard out, eh? It's like, sorry.
I got the key message is, can we use Te Tiriti to defeat the big giants like neoliberalism? If that's a fair interpretation. I remember Rakihia Tau standing up at some hui and saying that New Zealand needed to thank iwi Māori for litigating against the sale of SOEs in the 1980s. That because of the treaty clause in that act and our litigation, that was, even if we didn't necessarily intend it, a very profound intervention in the trajectory of neoliberalism nationally. So, and I think it's really important that we know these things, because those who have come before have created so many tips and tricks. We've just got to see them for what they really are. I don't think that kind of litigation-based strategy is going to serve purpose at this time at all. I think at any point when government is saying they'll just legislate over the top of court decisions, it says maybe just park the litigious spirit for a little bit. But I do think that there is lots of both normative and really practical work that can be done. So things like Kia ora waiora, at their kind of core, they are part of a wider global movement that some academics would describe as prefigurative work. And that prefigurative work that gives us the stepping stones to a next kind of evolution in dominant ideologies. And I think that we see ourselves theoretically as some distance now from those grand theories. And so we're really comfortable as academics to play in that meso space in little theoretical contributions. I think what Mātauranga Māori should do is embolden us to think, actually, the world's in enough of a mess that there is the potential to re-engage with that kind of symphonic grand theory using Mātauranga Māori, but it has to be in the spirit of muka, because the thought, the system build, the habitual things, that all of that requires us to intentionally be a mafia and to have an emergence to how we do things, which I think we're ninja at. It's our mobilization muscle, which as a community, I think we've got like no one else. So we could do this, and I think we should do this. And if we look back at some of those precedents we've been gifted, those are the types of things that we have always done. And so we should do that. That would be good. Yeah.
Any final questions from the crowd? That was quite a heavy one to finish on, wasn't it? Okay, so I'm just so stoked that we've been able to have these three amazing wahine with us this afternoon and triggering a whole lot of different ways to think and conceive and to contemplate. Nina, did you have a question? Well, I'm not on the panel, I'm emceeing. I know I'm beyond young self. Sorry, so Nina's just asked, what would I tell my younger self? Probably would be to run. I just no, but no, I think similarly, I think be brave. I think there'll be a lot of things that are offered to you. Take those opportunities, but make sure you've got a safety net around you. I think there was a few things that I did because I thought I was being brave and didn't have enough support, and you can become and get into culturally unsafe spaces quite quickly. So I think being brave with the right support probably would have saved me a few trip ups. Yeah.